My first trip to Japan in 2015 was one of the most memorable experiences of my life. I was chosen by the city of Dallas to represent the city in the Sendai International Half Marathon as a citizen ambassador. Dallas and Sendai are sister cities, and this was my first experience with Japanese culture, Japanese people, and it was easily one of the greatest experiences of my lifetime. I fell in love with the people, I fell in love with the culture, was treated so well on that memorable trip. So I'd been wanting to go back ever since, and I finally did that a couple weeks ago, and this is my vlog. So since this is a book channel, I'll still talk books. In the meantime, I have discovered a Japanese author that is a top 10 author for me, and that's Haruki Murakami. I read 2 works of his in Japan, which I will talk about. As my first trip to Japan, I saw a lot of the major sites, the big pagoda, the Imperial Palace, the National Museum. I didn't revisit those. So these are some sites that I did not see my first trip to Tokyo. And as you'll see, had a little bit of travel problems, so my Tokyo portion of this trip was a lot shorter than the Kyoto portion of the trip. But without further ado, I hope you enjoy the highlights of my recent trip to Japan. So day 2 in Tokyo. Should be day 1 though. Had some major travel issues. It took, from the time I left my house to get to my hotel here in Shibuya, it took 29 hours. Had 8 extra hours in Dallas. We took off and had to circle back because the airplane lavatories weren't working. So obviously 13-hour flight, you can't do that. And then I got to Tokyo and my bag is still in Dallas. So not a great start to the trip. So got here at about midnight and it's about 3:30 a.m., which back home it's about 1:30 in the afternoon. I'm just gonna try to push through today. My bag is supposed to arrive later today, so I'll just survive the first half of the day until that happens. As for the book, I read about 300 pages. You would think as much travel time as I had, I would have read more, but I just read 300 pages. And it's typical Murakami. I'm loving it. He's such an engrossing author that I just feel sucked into this world. This is kind of a smaller tale, and it's following a man who's going through a divorce, and he's an artist, and he essentially goes and he lives in this house in the woods to just try to focus on his art. And he meets his neighbor, and his neighbor has a very interesting story. And then of course it seems like a straightforward story, and then just Murakami throws the magical, I always call it magical surrealism. I wouldn't go that far yet, but definitely the magical realism elements of the story have kicked in already. And it's one of those, he's just one of those storytellers, you never know exactly where it's gonna go. Now I will say there are some uncomfortable elements in the story, as there always are with Murakami. He always puts something in there that's just a little bit bizarre, a little bit pushes kind of social norms, or even pushes maybe even good tastes a little bit. But besides that, I'm really enjoying this. So 300 pages, the book's about 750, I think. So we'll see how it goes. So tomorrow this is day 3 in Tokyo instead of day 2. I'm gonna basically hang out in the area I'm staying. You can kind of see it lit up a little bit. It's Shibuya, and it's a really, really neat area of Tokyo. I'm gonna pretty much spend most of the day there until I head off to the airport to get my luggage, and then I can put on some different clothes, which would be nice. And then tomorrow, day after, well, yeah, tomorrow. Sorry, I haven't slept much. I did sleep 7 hours on the flight, business class rules. Anyway, 2 days from now, or tomorrow, I'm gonna spend the day with a Mount Fuji excursion, so I'm looking forward to that. But I'll check in a little bit more. Hope you're enjoying the travel log portion of this, but I'll try to talk enough so it still is what it's supposed to be on a book channel. Pretty great view from my hotel. We're in the heart of Shibuya. There's a famous crossing. Can't see it from my hotel room, but you can see it from the elevator when you take the ride up here to on the 21st floor. You can See in the distance there, Tower Records. You can guarantee I'll be stopping there. Pretty good view. I don't read manga, but this selection is impressive. No surprise. Box sets. So not really a reading update here, but since I was at a bookstore and at Tower Records, I wanted to show you what I picked up when I was there. First of all, one thing really cool about that bookstore, the editions, a lot of very different editions I hadn't seen before, and a lot of different sizes of books, which was interesting. But of course, I had to get something from that selection of Murakami. So the one I picked up was absolutely on music, which is Conversations with Conductor Seiji Ozawa. And my friend Jeff has been harping on me to read this for like a decade, so I'm gonna finally get to this one since I saw it in the wild. I was actually gonna pick up more than one, but the prices here are almost double like what I could get like on Amazon back home. So just one Murakami. At Tower Records, I picked up music from a Japanese composer that I discovered a while back, Yasushi Akutagawa. And his music is really hard to find in the States. You can only get imports and it's really expensive. So this was a situation where I could get a double CD for about the equivalent of like $17 or $18 US. So certainly a great deal on that one. So picked up, since I'm in Japan, it just makes sense to get a Japanese author, Japanese composer. These steps are no joke. Glad I'm a runner. Barely see the top. Been climbing for quite a while. I'm sure there's a reason why these shrines are up in the mountains. It's pretty humid today, so this is some work for me too. Fuji. Took a walk after lunch and just discovered this. So beautiful. So assuming I put all of this in just the order that the trip went, you probably just saw all my pictures from the trip to Mount Fuji and the areas around it. Because of that, I've had a lot of time to read, and since this is a book channel and this is a travel vlog on a book channel, I need to talk about the book. I'm about 80% in. I'm almost there. I read a lot of this yesterday. The last chapter I read, though, made me really concerned that I have a fairy tale by Stephen King in my hands, because the first 80% of this I've loved. It's been typical Murakami, just enthralling, engrossing. He is probably the author I struggle the most to talk about what it's like to read Murakami if you haven't read him. And I know that's kind of the title of this vlog, but his writing style is so unique. It's really, can't really compare him to very many people. I can compare maybe the magical realism aspects to a Stephen King, because he goes in some very, very bold directions that I think only King has done as far as the authors that I've read. But this last one, I wonder, I don't know, we'll see where it goes, but 80% I'm really enjoying it. This great little tale of this artist. One of the things I do love about Murakami that's easy to talk about is he is, I think, a kindred soul for me. I'm a musician, not a writer, but he loves classical music, and classical music is a big part of just about every one of his protagonists, and this is true as well. This one also, the protagonist is a visual artist, so there's a lot of discussions about the craft, and I love that in nonfiction and fiction, so I really enjoy this as one of his better protagonists. A lot of times I feel Murakami's protagonists are the kind of characters that just kind of sit and let things happen, and there's still a degree of that, but this character seems to take more action than most. And like a lot of Murakami, I think I mentioned it before, I'm not really sure because I was jet lagged the last time I talked to the camera. There's always some uncomfortable topics in there thematically, usually of a odd sexual nature, and I don't know if it's a cultural thing or a Murakami thing. I honestly don't know, but the one in here is a little weird at times. But overall, I'm enjoying this, although the last chapter gave me a little bit of a pause that if that's the direction he's going to take, I don't know if I'm going to love this ending, because up till this point, it's been a 5-star read. It's been totally engrossing. I've read so much of this just sitting on the bus going from one place to another. I have about, I don't know, 150 pages left, so chances are, just to keep the vlog, I'm in Japan 10 days. I'm probably going to have to start this other one as well, so that I'm not reading somebody else in Japan. This is a 17-day trip for me. I'll be in Seoul for a week, but I'll read other stuff there. But I want to read Murakami while I'm in Japan, so we'll see how this one finishes up. I'll probably just talk to you when I get to that point, and then most likely I'll be picking up his conversations with conductor Seiji Ozawa after that. Just a super quick update, something I should have mentioned, but I just read one more chapter and I realized what I didn't like the turn. This has been kind of a straightforward story with an element of magical realism, and where it just turned is made it like all magical, and I don't like it as much, at least at this point. We'll see. I mean, I still have 100 and some pages to go, but that's the thing I didn't really clearly mention on that last update just a few minutes ago. just like a stroll in the woods, but it's a hike and you're going up a mountain. I found myself in a little area all by myself. It's pretty peaceful. Just hear the birds. Pretty cool. Well, I'm in Kyoto now, so different hotel. I don't have quite the view, but this hotel's really nice. Kyoto's kind of the historic capital. I'll probably have, before this little video here, some of my sites that I've seen in Kyoto. But I finished the book and I gave it 4 stars. I thought the ending just embraced too much of the fantasy, the magical part of the magical realism, and not to a good effect. I thought that that was kind of the least interesting parts of the book. I liked it, but I was loving the book when it was more about kind of the human story, the main character and his relationship with the people around him. I found it utterly compelling, but it was overall still a really great read. I'd put it, this is, I think my 14th or 15th book by Murakami that I've read, and I'd put it somewhere in the middle. It's not up there with some of my favorites, but it's not down there with ones that I consider forgettable, because I think this is a very, very good book. I still enjoyed it quite a bit. So as I'm filming this is Tuesday. I am here until Friday. So I did go ahead and start, and I'll probably finish it before I'm out of Japan. The book, I just forgot the name of it. The Conversations with Seiji Ozawa. I'm already partway through it. I'll probably finish it maybe even this afternoon. So I'll be out on Murakami books. I'll probably start something else, and maybe I'll mention that on this vlog, maybe I won't. But I'm here in Japan until Friday, and then I'm actually going to Korea for a week. So it's been a really great trip, and I enjoyed the book. I've experienced reading my favorite Japanese author in Japan. So check that one off the list, I guess. Just want to interject here real quick as I'm editing this video. I didn't take a lot of pictures in the Peace Museum because frankly it was such an emotional experience. The last thing on my mind was taking pictures of just revisiting the horrors of what happened in Hiroshima. But I will say that it was probably the highlight of my 10 days in Japan. I just felt that it was, although it was very emotional, it was just one of those very impactful experiences. So I just wanted to mention that since there isn't much here on the video about my day in Hiroshima. Last day in Japan. I don't know if you can tell it's raining. Got rain yesterday when I was in Hiroshima, and probably looks like most of the day today, which kind of changes some of my plans. But I'm filming this because I did finish Absolutely on Music by Haruki Murakami. Loved it, 5-star read. However, I don't know if this is a book for a typical Murakami fan. This is a book definitely for me. I've read a lot of books like this, Conversations with Conductors and Memoirs of Conductors, and they get into kind of some details. And Murakami is not just a fan of classical music, he knows a lot. So there's some in-depth discussions here of like Beethoven's Third Piano Concerto, the music of Brahms, and a lot of other things. And so I don't know if this is something that just the typical Murakami fan is going to get much out of, to be honest. Let me know if you've read it and you're a Murakami fan. But as the musician, as an orchestral conductor, basically 300 pages of wisdom by Seiji Ozawa. I loved it, so it was 5-star read for me. So one more day here in Kyoto. Hopefully the rain stops this afternoon. I'm filming this pretty early in the morning, so I can see a couple of sites that I wanted to see that I haven't gotten to yet. Fingers crossed, but then I'm off to Seoul tomorrow. But if you've been watching this vlog, I hope you enjoyed it. Kind of a different kind of thing for me. I've done a few vlogs before, but never a travel vlog, but hopefully I kept it on brand by talking about books enough. Thanks for watching.